I want to talk about marriage and close, intimate relationships as an opportunity to externalize and examine the unconscious dialogues within. And how it works is like this. The child is typically a confluence of both parents. And in particular, I want to look at this through the lens of masculine and feminine, so that the masculine in each one of us, that which is assertive, the speaker, the giver, the shaper, the designer, the plotter, the planner, the initiator, the masculine within each one of us is in dialogue, is in flow, or in resistance with the feminine, the listener, the receiver, the allower, the one who has presence, the one who is, the liquid, the emotion that these shapes, that these structures produce. And so, as the male and the female of the parent come together, there is a pressure, a strong energetic template pressure to form a shape in which that which is masculine in us relates to that which is feminine in us, in which that which is masculine in us externally relates to that which is feminine in our environment, and in which, in a relationship in which the male, myself, is more masculine, and the female and is more feminine. In a marriage, this inner conversation, this inner dialogue is externalized. It's externalized. And I noticed I've got a broken elbow. And so the things that I would normally tell myself to do, I'm telling my wife to do for me. And it's an interesting thing because it's externalizing the relationship between my inner masculine and my inner feminine. In other words, there's a voice in my head that pipes up and says, Dane, you've got to go do this. And that's the masculine point. And there's a feminine part in me that says, okay, I will go and do it. And that's the feminine part, the one that says, yes, I'll do it. Now, if the feminine in me is in antagonism, is in a wounded place because I'm being dishonoring or other people have and I've allowed it, then my feminine may say, go fuck yourself, I don't feel like it. And I say, well, you got to do it. Well, go fuck yourself, I don't feel like it. And this is not usually a very conscious conversation. It's just like, well, I should do this, but I don't want to, so I'm not going to do it. Now, I have a relatively good partnership in terms of getting things done. When my masculine says we should do this, 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 and this on this list by this time, typically my feminine says, on it, let's get it done. She doesn't fight that. But I am also incredibly rude towards my feminine. I'm incredibly fear-based towards my feminine. There's an underlying energy from childhood and scarcity and emotional abuse, etc., that I have to do all of these things in order not to be abused, in order to be good enough to avoid criticism, to avoid being shamed, to avoid being shouted at, etc. Because as a child, I had to do those things to avoid being criticized and shouted at, etc., by my parents. And when I took on that role of, needing to be an adult at a young age, or at least a grown-up at a young age, and take care of myself from the age of 13, psychologically, and more so physically from the age of 14, and then leave home and start my business at age 17. The template of you need to do this, this, and this, okay, because otherwise we won't survive. Otherwise we'll be horrendously humiliated. Otherwise we'll be dependent on other people who want to hurt us. Otherwise it's just too painful. We've got to do this to escape the pain. And so there's a very kind of bossy, curt, oh my God, do this now, it's important energy in my masculine that has very little space to listen for how that is received by my feminine. And so my feminine is very tired and very sad and very unacknowledged. But I'm so anxious in my masculine that I don't notice. I don't notice my feminine side, and so it's more unconscious. I notice the fear and the anxiety. And so this has worked as a survival security construct, meaning I have survived and achieved thousands of goals from the age of 14 on with this partnership. Oh my gosh, if we don't do this and this, something needs to happen, and okay, I'll do it. I'll shut up about it, and I won't make a fuss about the fact that you're being rude and not saying please and not thanking me very much, because I get that you're scared and you're anxious. And so this is the conversation that's, as I say, identify more with the masculine, but I don't pay attention. Partly the cult influence of chauvinism. I don't pay attention to how does it feel to be the part of me that is constantly being told they need to do this, this, and this in an anxious way. And so one of the beautiful things about marriage is it's a contract of unity. It's a contract of oneness. And so it's a contract that says, I will treat you like I will treat myself. And in this contract of marriage and unity, it's a contract of externalizing the good and the bad, the rich and the poor, etc., for better or for worse. Because you get both when you are one. When you let down the facade, the performance, etc., and treat one another as we treat ourselves, there is a pairing, a unity of the relationship between masculine and feminine. Now, as a general rule, when I'm dealing with people, I am much nicer with them than I am with myself. Meaning, when I have a client, I don't just say, go on, hurry up, do that before it's getting dark, do this and that and the other. I'm saying that to myself in that tone. But I'm not saying to the client, I say, would you mind doing this and that and the other? But they're not one. I'm not one with a client. I'm in a professional role. And with a friend, we're not trying to get things done, so it's not that same kind of masculine, feminine role in that sense. But with a marriage, what I'm noticing is that this internal, anxious, bossy communication and the part that just silently goes along with it is really emphasized in the helplessness of not being able to do. I can't open a jar of pickles. I can't roll toilet paper. I can't put on or take off a shirt without help. I can't, initially I couldn't drive the car. Now I can do it, one-handed. But there's a lot of stuff where help is required. And I don't want to slow down this habit of bossy, Dane do this, Dane do that, Dane do this, Dane do that, now do this, now do that. We got to do all this or all hell will break loose. Or, it goes back to that underlying unresolved trauma of survival that we don't deal with in our culture. We say move on, but it lives in the biology. And so these things are there in the biology. And so as I'm externalizing this voice, no, not like that, like this, no, over there. What do I just said, bring me some orange juice. What's up with this? That's not orange, that's grape juice. Orange, and I'm completely in the self-absorption of how I normally talk to myself. And I've trained my inner feminine to really be on the ball in these things. And my inner feminine knows that I have rages at myself, panic attacks and things like this. Oh my gosh, we're going to be late, or all this stuff. And so my inner feminine has gotten really good at responding. And so we're not late, and we have the right tools, and we made a list, and we've done it all. And at the end, I just say, oh, that's over. My goodness, that's over. And I don't thank this whole part of me who's been bossed around all day by this anxious part of me. I don't thank it. I don't feel the luxury. I don't feel loved like, oh my gosh, you really love me, don't you? Feminine self. I mean, you did this, you did that, you did all this stuff that I asked you to do just because I asked you to do it. And I couldn't do this without you. Meaning, if I said, hey, we got to work on our goals, and you said, goals, schmoles, who needs them? I said, come on, nah, we're not going to do it. I wouldn't get anywhere in this life. I'm getting somewhere in this life because I'm saying, hey, we're working on goals, and you're saying, yes, that's a good idea, I'll do it, let's do it. You're a great feminine partner. You're going along with great ideas. And you even praise me for them sometimes. The feminine praises the masculine in my inner conversation. So I do all this stuff and then, and worry about this, and then I feel, like nobody's praising me. And so my feminine will say, Dane, I appreciate you for that. Good job. And so I noticed this scarcity around, I didn't want to slow down and praise my girlfriend for every little thing, that she got right and stuff. And there was a mild resentment about needing her in the first place. And I think this is why the inner masculine in a chauvinistic cult doesn't like praising the part for going along with it or acknowledging and honoring the feminine as deeply as is intelligent and appropriate. Because why are you doing all this if not to enjoy, if not to savor the moment, which is the feminine domain, the presence, the awareness of the moment? It's feminine territory. And so basically, particularly since my arm is, I've got to see, one, how I talk to my feminine self by noticing how I talk to my wife. And secondly, my wife doesn't enjoy being bossed around impatiently, not there, hurry up. My wife doesn't enjoy the energy, the tone, the energy, or what's coming out of my mouth in that domain, which is exactly what's coming out of the masculine part of my mouth towards my inner feminine. And so I watch my wife get irritated, sulk, become, defiant. You do it. Now I don't want to go and help you again. Fine, I'm never going to do this again. You say I did it all wrong. I'm not going to do it again. And I think, wow, no wonder I feel tired. No wonder I feel exhausted. No wonder I feel so put upon in my feminine side that no one's appreciating and studying, because I'm not in my masculine side really praising and appreciating her, the one that says yes, the one that responds, the one that listens, the one that helps. I say, I want to go out for a drive. And my feminine self says, sure, we'll go along. Now, the dynamic is by no means all toxic, because I externalize all the great parts about my relationship. My masculine really cares about my feminine in a number of key areas. And so the feminine in my wife is very well cared for. For example, my masculine never lies to my feminine. My masculine never cheats on my feminine. My masculine doesn't withhold truth, meaning, if something needs to be talked about, he says, hey, what's going on there? And he also listens to the feminine. If she says, hey, I want to talk to you, I may say, not now, I've got but okay, here, I've got 2 hours. What do you have to say? And I'll just listen for 2 hours. And then I will respond to the feminine. So it's basically, for better or for worse, an externalization of the inner masculine and feminine. And I think that to a certain extent, in order to get married, both people have to be comfortable and feel like there's a fit in the externalization of the inner dialogue. And so what happens is one becomes one, is in this case, my masculine is the bossy one. And so it's kind of invading and encroaching on my feminine space. And so as that becomes one, if one is to watch externally and record the marriage, my bossiness invades my wife's space more than my wife's bossiness invades my space, because she's the more feminine of the two. Now, there's other areas, of course, because if there isn't some sense of sustainability and win-win, you don't get a fit. There's other areas, of course, where it's the opposite, where my masculine does all of the work. And so in that sense, there's a certain sense of win-win. My wife's masculine isn't as assertive about the future. So if she's left to her own devices, she may just watch cartoons 24/7, and whatever. My masculine says, hey, there's a winter coming. Hey, we could have a medical bill. We need to save money here. We have to do this and this and this. She says, okay. And so it's the masculine in the masculine in me in the marriage that looks out for both of our feminine, because it's of course not very fun to be a feminine self broke on the street and that kind of thing. So this is just a little insight I've had today and wanted to share with you.